Hello, all of you Reasonable Wrestling fans. This week's question of the week is brought to you by spoilers. Don't give them out. I know that Infinity War's been out for a while, but don't be a dick and ruin it for other people. With that said, in life there are many questions, like, why is the sky blue? It's that over there. It's not gonna do it. But this week I'm interested in one question. Travis, Kevin, if you had to pitch the ultimate David versus Goliath match in WWE, what would that match be?
The David versus Goliath match trope in professional wrestling, I feel like gets overplayed a lot, so I wanted to pick a match that I thought was kind of essentially pretty different than almost any standard big guy versus little guy match. So I'm putting together Daniel Bryan versus The Undertaker. Daniel Bryan is a great sympathetic babyface, so he'll really be able to play up The Undertaker's offense. Undertaker, on the other hand, big, he's got a mystique about him, the gimmick, which adds a little bit more flair to the match than a traditional, like Big Show being the big guy or Great Khali, Undertaker's just, he's got a better aura about him. Undertaker also isn't afraid to get technical at times, which will help him out with Daniel Bryan, because Undertaker has had matches with CM Punk, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, where he showed that, he doesn't only just do punch, kick, chokeslam, he has submission hold moves that he can do. It's kind of cool because in my head it plays off the story of Daniel Bryan trying to avenge Undertaker retiring Shawn Michaels, so there's a built-in storyline already going for it, and you'd have Daniel Bryan pulling out just about all the stops he could and try to beat The Undertaker. And I think it's a cool idea because, the smaller guy always has to be really resourceful, and in my head I can feasibly see Daniel Bryan figuring out ways to reverse the chokeslam and the tombstone and the last ride potentially into the yes lock. And it gives you a cool finish counter dynamic. So that being said, I still think Undertaker would win, but I think it bodes for a very, very interesting and entertaining match. And another cool thing about it is it's two guys who are very much crowd favorites. So it wouldn't have the typical crowd dynamic either, where usually you're always only rooting for the underdog, but you're going to have a good amount of people who are also in it because they support The Undertaker. So there's my David versus Goliath match. Now I'm going to get out of this box.
So when thinking about a David versus Goliath, the first thing that pops into my head is something like Rey Mysterio versus Big Show. You've got the small baby face who has to, climb the literal hill that is the Goliath, such as a Big Show. So I went with, I still kept my Goliath bigger, which, when Thomas was kind of giving us the ideas here, he said that, the Goliath doesn't necessarily need to be bigger, but he could be. So what I did is I kept my Goliath bigger, but I allowed for the intensity of the babyface to maybe match up to that of the Goliath. I went with Pete Dunne defending the UK Championship against Drew McIntyre. These two have only faced each other once, according to a Google search and looking on ProFightDB. There was only one match, and that was on November 16th, 2017 at an NXT house show, with Drew McIntyre and Johnny Gargano defeat Pete Dunne and Andrade Cien Almas in a tag team match. But thinking about the idea that Pete Dunne has had the UK Championship now for close to a year, and going through all the different people that he's defended it against, whether it's, defending against Tyler Bate or over in the UK. He's defended against Mandrews, but he's also gone against some bigger talent like Wolfgang, and he's also defended against Cassius Ohno, who's just about the same size as Drew McIntyre. Now, the difference between Drew McIntyre and a regular Goliath, so to speak, is that he is super fast. He has so much more agility. He's one of the best big men, I would say, going today. And to put him against someone like Pete Dunne, who, not only has he had matches with Cassius Ohno, but just recently at NXT TakeOver, watching him go against people like the Authors of Pain, seeing him be able to match up to that bigger opposition. I think the intensity that these two would bring would not only make for a great David versus Goliath match where Drew plays the devastating heel and can throw Pete Dunne around, but then you get the Pete Dunne, the baby face, the fire up, crowd's going to be behind him. He comes up and then he's actually able to kind of like ramp himself up and throw Drew McIntyre around. I just think watching the two of them be able to play with that dynamic, especially now because we have Drew McIntyre being the devastating heel, and although Pete Dunne is kind of a dick, he's still the babyface right now dealing with the Roderick Strong Undisputed Era situation. So to have Pete Dunne in a situation where he is, he's got Drew I think has 60 pounds on him, 65 pounds over him. He's also 7 inches taller. He's a more decorated WWE guy, essentially. He's been NXT champion. He's been the Intercontinental champion. He's been in the WWE system. He would be able to bully up and try to keep Pete Dunne down. But knowing how passionate Pete Dunne is, especially as a champion, and knowing how much he appreciates the United Kingdom Championship, it would instill a fire in him that would allow him to be able to step up and stand up to the bigger, stronger, potentially faster Drew McIntyre. So that is my pitch for David versus Goliath match. Let's go to Thomas Wolfe and see who wins this week's Question of the Week.
Whoa! I didn't see you guys walk over here. That was weird.
We were just...
Yeah, I know. I didn't see you guys. That's the thing. You were in front of me. I didn't see you guys walk. Suddenly you're over here.
We're fucking ninjas, bro.
Currently?
Ninja popcorn throw? Whoosh.
Oh, so
man.
close. Anyway, I like the answers this week.
Alright. Good.
I'm waiting for the answer where Tom's like, I hated these answers.
He just doesn't pick a winner.
And sucked. You both lose.
No, 1 week it's going to happen.
And I'm glad he has such faith in us.
And it could be this week, but it's not.
Oh.
Because I liked these answers.
Okay, good.
Just
It's been a roller coaster of emotions.
couple thoughts immediately. Putting like NXT guys in the storylines always adds a little extra, because like obviously Undertaker and Daniel Bryan are megastars, but McIntyre and Pete Dunne are two untapped talents that we've seen hints of their potential in NXT, but they can go to that next level and one day will be at that level very clearly, especially McIntyre and especially Pete Dunne, especially both of them in this match that you pitched. However, when I think David versus Goliath, Pete Dunne does not stick out as a very good David figure. Yeah, he's small, but he would rarely, just because of his style, he would rarely feel like an underdog to me. And also because of his character, very rarely feel sympathetic to me. Like, even as a face who's getting his ass kicked, I'm not going to be like, oh, Pete Dunne, I really hope he can succeed. No, I'm just going to be like, okay, wait till Pete Dunne gets going. He's going to fucking whip some ass.
Break a finger.
So,
He does that.
while I liked both these answers, unfortunately, due to the criteria of the match, it was a really easy choice to give it to Daniel Bryan and The Undertaker. So even though I was sitting here when you gave me your answers just now, who won?
Me.
All right.
Yeah. Especially when we were both
You just heard us give you the answers.
Yeah, I was.
sitting there, but doing them individually.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, we don't want to crowd each other's space.
Yeah.
Right?
I was more focused on the answers than the deliverer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You were writing down notes.
Right.
Got it. Understood.
Yep. That was me. I won.
Yeah. All right. So that's 2-1.
We're just gonna alternate. I'm gonna win next week.
Yeah. So
Bring it on.
that is the question and subsequent answer of the week. I had something to say that wasn't going to be dead air.
Yeah, you get that air.
Yeah, I do. Tune in next week for another dangerous question of the week.
Oh, you're just gonna give these little like
Yeah.
little
Spoiler.
hints.
Just little tiny nuggets of information.
Nuggets. Everybody likes nuggets.
Yeah.
Is this where I do the thing?
Yeah. Or we can just fade out on that.
Alright.
Like, we don't have to do the whole big long
That's true.
thing. Let's just keep talking and then slowly fade the audio out.
Should we just fade right now?
Yeah, just start fading and then they end wherever it ends. No one knows where that's gonna be.
Alright. Cool.
Still going? Oh. My bad.
Fuck Titus.